So I have about 100 horror films that I would like to rank. But which ones are the essentials? Which ones would you introduce to someone new to the genre? What's going on, everyone? Julian here at Off the Dome, and boy, do I have a good one for you today. Before I begin, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. It really does help the channel. But with that said, let's really get into it. So what I'm trying to do here, essentially, is create a horror film list, a comprehensive list. I have about 100 films that I'm going to discuss. It's not quite 100, but I'm going to talk about some good pairings with some of these films. So it should equal out to 100, a little bit more than that. But I want to go over what the essentials are. Not really what the essentials are for horror film fanatics, but what are the essentials for someone new coming into the genre? So if you're the type of person that's never really gotten into horror films and you're kind of looking to dip your toe in and try to find out what all the hype is, well, I am here to help you. If you know someone who kind of falls into that category and you want to bring them into the genre and you're not sure which movies you should show them first, this list might help you. I've brought in a lot of people into the horror space that would have never considered it. They, say they don't like the gore, say they don't like the violence, say that they get scared easily, say that their parents would never let them watch it, so it's something that they've never watched. And I really feel like some of these individuals are really missing out on some of the greatest films ever made. Partially, I blame the Academy Awards, snubbing horror films and kind of looking down on the genre. But that's a conversation for another day. So what I want to do today, what I want to do right now is start my tier list and let's go over it. Okay, so here it is. This is my essentials list. So let me break it down by category. So we're going to start from the bottom and we're going to work our way up. So we have easy, light work, entry level. So if you've never seen a horror film or if you're trying to introduce horror films to any specific person, this is where you might want to start them. And now we can go into the next category here, and we have for the crazy people. So if you're the kind of person that maybe you've watched a couple of horror films or you're new to the genre, but nothing bothers you, the gore doesn't bother you, you're not easily scared, you really want to kind of see some more extreme horror films, this is a tier for you. Now, keep in mind, this is an essential list. So there's a lot more gorier and disturbing films out there that are not here because I don't consider them essentials. Or maybe I might miss a few. So don't think you're going to see the worst of the worst here. So, for example, I'm not putting a Serbian film in here. The next category is going to be not for everyone. To be honest with you, it's kind of self-explanatory, and you'll see as we go along. The next category is good, not too scary. So it might be a little bit past what I would consider an entry-level horror film. So, maybe for someone a little bit more seasoned, someone who's just looking for a good horror film with a good story, maybe some good scares, maybe a little bit of gore, but nothing too extreme, nothing too crazy. This is going to be the list for you. And then we have the awesome second tier. Now, there's a distinction between what I would consider the essential, the must-see, to just a really good horror film. And I'm going to try to make that distinction as we go along in the list. And then, of course, on the top, we have essentials, the must-see. These are the classics. These are the ones that you cannot miss. If you're going to show horror films to someone, or if you're going to sit down and watch this for the first time, these are the movies you might want to watch. Now, this is going to be a mix. It might be super gory, it might be super scary, it might be a little bit light. I will indicate that as I go. The next point I want to make is I'm going to also mention other films that are not on this list, not on appearing on the tier list, because I want to make sure that I'm adding honorable mentions to certain films. So, for instance, I have The Exorcist here, and I also think that The Exorcist 3 is a great film, but it's not included in this overall list. So when I go over The Exorcist, I'll say, hey, if you really like The Exorcist, check out Exorcist 3, or check out this movie, or check out that movie, depending on which one it is. So I'll also recommend some other things. So if you're really interested and you really like the list and want some other films that pair good with some of the films I'm going to mention, jot them down if that's going to help you kind of keep track of it better. Okay, so let's get started here. I'm really excited for this. So I'm going to go kind of out of order here. So I'm going to select for an easy watch here. The first one I'm going to do is Gremlins. So Gremlins is essentially, it's a PG-13 movie. Not going to get into the whole PG-13, but it is a significant film as far as skating that horror comedy. I watched it as a kid growing up. I didn't have nightmares over it. It didn't scare me. Mind you, I had seen some way worse horror films prior to seeing Gremlins, but I do know that Gremlins has some scares. It's a little creepy, but it's more of a comedy than anything. And then if we're judging it by modern standards, your average drama or thriller, is scarier than Gremlins. So Gremlins is a good, easy entryway for new horror people, especially because it has some comedy, it has some gore, but it's nothing over the top. So we're gonna go with Gremlins as our first easy, light work, entry level movie. I guess the next one on my list that I'm going to talk about, also I would consider this a mostly easy light work film, would be Tremors. So Tremors is a film that came out in 1990, and it stars Kevin Bacon, and it's campy, it's kind of funny. It's definitely one of those films where when you first put it on and you watch it, it just kind of seems absurd, and some of the acting is over the top. Oh, by the way, a lot of these films, the acting is going to be over the top, and then some will be more serious. But you kind of, for an entry level film, I this is another one where I feel like it's an easy no brainer. So let's change it up a little bit. So the next one up I want to go for is one that's sort of an easy watch. It's not too scary. And there are some mixed reviews over it, but one thing you can't deny, it's a beautiful looking film, and a lot of the acting is really well done. If I kind of speak on it a little bit more, most of you are going to know what I'm talking about, so might as well just get to it. So good, but not too scary. I'm going to put Bram Stoker's Dracula on this list. It's not a perfect film, but it's one of my favorite films on this list, believe it or not. I know everybody's going to talk about Keanu Reeves, his, British accent, but if you can get past that, it really is a good film. Great gothic horror. Nothing too scary, nothing too over the top. I would say that this is good, not too scary, but it does have its moments. It's more of a looker than it is anything else. And the soundtrack is absolutely amazing, the theme song to it. So Bram Stoker's Dracula, check it out. Pretty good choice, pretty good movie. So the next movie I want to talk about is a movie that, as a kid, I was very fascinated watching this. It never really scared me, but it scared a lot of people, surprisingly. Like, I was always surprised how many people were kind of freaked out over this movie. It's a little bit outdated if you watch it now. Special effects and just some of the way it was filmed isn't the best, but it just holds a special place in my heart, and that movie is Cujo. So I'm going to put Cujo as not for everyone. If you are scared of dogs and you just don't trust animals in general, then this movie might be a little bit more scary for you. An honorable mention film, a good pairing with Cujo, is going to be a film that isn't really particularly great, and it's kind of rare. Like, I don't ever see anybody talking about it. I never see it on any other streaming services whatsoever. And that film is called Devil Dog Hound of Hell. So I don't want to give too many spoilers, but there's a scene in Devil Dog Hound of Hell that scared the crap out of me when I was a kid. I don't want to give away too much, but it's the scene with the mirrors, where basically people's reflections don't really show who we see, but the reflections reveal what they really are. And for some reason, as a kid, that just stuck with me. So the next one on the list is going to be I'm going to go with Brain Dead. And this is for crazy people. So Brain Dead, also known as Dead Alive, it's actually a Peter Jackson film. So that might surprise some of you. It's, much older than like when he did King Kong and stuff, but it is extremely It is extremely violent and extremely gross. It's got a lot of dark humor, a lot of funny moments in it. If you are squeamish and you don't like blood and you don't like body parts being chopped up and you don't like any of that stuff, stay away from Brain Dead. Stay away from Dead Alive. It's not for you, and that's all there is to it. But it is a classic. And once you the goal for me here is once you've gone through some of the essentials and you make it past some of the tears, maybe at some point you'll be able to tolerate these movies and then laugh at them. Because at the end of the day, it's all about the special effects, especially if they're practical, right? You know, you stop as a horror film person. The first thing, anytime there's violence, that's why like Terrifier has become so popular. And by the way, Terrifier is not on this list at all, but it's become popular because of the gore, and people immediately when they see it, they're like, wow, how did they do that? Love the practical effects. So once you become, and I hate to use the word, a little desensitized, then Dead Alive or Brain Dead won't be so bad for you. But initially, I wouldn't recommend it right away. So that's why I say it's, you know, for the crazy people out there, people who are ready to get to that next level. So the next movie on the list, it's an old one. It was released in 1962. It stars Bette Davis and Joan Crawford, two phenomenal and very famous actresses of their time. If you've ever seen the movie Mommy Dearest, you know the story of Joan Crawford, at least the story told by her daughter in that film adaptation. But nonetheless, she does a great job in this film. That film is called Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. Now, where am I going to rank this? I'm going to rank this actually not for everyone list. And the reason why I say that is there's going to be a lot of you out there that certain films that are a little bit older or a lot older immediately might not grab you, right? You might not be into the black and white films. You might not be into even the way they spoke and moved and acted in those times. And it might pull you out of the experience a little bit. But I promise you, if you sit down and you really watch it and you allow yourself to just be taken away by the story and taken away in how the presentation was done, you'll find some greatness in this film. If I wasn't considering this type of audience, I will put it at the good, not too scary list. So it's kind of somewhere in between that, but I'm going to put it not for everyone. So the next one on my list is a really great horror film, and I'm struggling a little bit putting it between the awesome second tier list and the essentials. The reason why is because for me, as a horror fan, it is an essential. But when I compare it to the very top, like the top horror films, the ones that I don't think you can miss, it's a little bit hard for me to kind of put that there, because I do think that you can miss this film and still get a great idea of some of the best horror films ever made. But with that said, it's right there. So if the highest ranking was an A plus, this would be somewhere maybe at a B plus, maybe even an A minus. And that film is Hellraiser. So Hellraiser, I'm putting at the awesome second tier. That is not disparaging this movie in any way. I think it's really good, really great film, but it's just below that top tier that I'm going to be talking about soon. So far we've filled every category except for an essential. So let's go for an essential. So one of the essential movies, I think this is a must see. This is something that you should watch for sure. It is violent. It is a classic in the sense where everyone knows the film, everyone's heard the title, and a lot of people are just terrified just of the thought of you even watching it. What's tainted this franchise, because it's now a franchise, are the many sequels. So if you've somehow stumbled upon the sequels before seeing the original, unfortunately, that might change the way you view this. But if, again, you're new into this genre, a complete and absolute essential is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That's an essential. And a good pairing for this one, I believe, is the part 3. I like the third one. I know a lot of people love the second one. The second one is a little bit more comical, a little bit more goofy, but and the third one has its like 90s goofy charm. But if you're looking for something really gritty and something that kind of really define what this type of horror is, you can't go past, you can't look any further than the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. If this wasn't such critically acclaimed film from horror buffs, this would be in the for the crazy people category, but it is an essential. So moving along here, I'm gonna go with another not for everyone, and that's gonna be The Omen. The Omen, for a lot of people, that would be considered like it's a horror classic. Everyone knows about The Omen. Some people might consider it an essential. I never thought The Omen was really that great of a film. It was a good film, but compared to some of the other horror films of that time in that era, I don't think it stacks well against some of them. So I'm gonna put it not for everyone, and it's definitely gonna be lower than the other two on the list. In fact, I got Whatever Happened to Baby Jane a little bit higher than I have Cujo. The Omen, it's a better film than Cujo, so I'll put it there. But yeah, it wasn't one of my favorite films. But another film around that time that definitely ranks a lot higher, and I think is an essential film, is Rosemary's Baby. If you've never seen Rosemary's Baby, what are you waiting for? You should check it out. It's a phenomenal film. There's so much history. I did a breakdown on some of the history surrounding the film. So if you're new to the channel and you haven't seen that video, please click on it. I put a lot of work and research into it. And it's not one of my videos that's doing too well, but really is, stacked with a lot of cool information. I would recommend you could even watch my video prior to watching the film. So maybe that'll encourage you to want to watch it. But Rosemary's Baby has influenced so many movies and was revolutionary when it came out. Starring Mia Farrow, directed by Roman Polanski. Really don't have anything negative to say about the film. It's one of my favorites. And actually, I do rank it higher than I do Chainsaw Massacre, just slightly. But, it is a top tier film. So a good pairing for Rosemary's Baby, if you decide to watch it or you've already seen it and you want to see another movie that's kind of similar and kind of borrowed things from Rosemary's Baby, but equally a really good film, not quite as good, but more modern and definitely more obvious tension. I would recommend The Devil's Advocate. It stars Charlize Theron, Keanu Reeves, and Al Pacino. So it really does have some, heavy hitters in that film, and they all do a phenomenal job. So, Devil's Advocate is a good pairing for Rosemary's Baby. Not on this list, but deservingly should be on the list. But I'm pairing it with Rosemary's Baby because I think the two of them, although they're not completely related, Rosemary's Baby definitely influenced The Devil's Advocate. So the next one on the list is actually more of a newer film. Came out in 2025. Went under the radar a bit. I think it could have, done a little bit better, especially here in the States. But it was one of those films where I was pleasantly surprised. It's a type of kind of horror film. You could consider it a body horror, but, there's more to it than that. There's a lot of cool messaging in the film. And that is The Ugly Stepsister. Couldn't get the word out. So this I'm going to put here at the awesome second tier list. It really surprised me. It was something that I really wasn't expecting. My daughter had recommended it and she had kind of talked about it a couple of times. And finally I was like, all right, I'll watch it. And I put it on and I was actually pleasantly surprised. So if, you want to see something, really good, it's not too scary. I wouldn't even consider it a scary film. Like I said, it's more body horror, but it's not, like blood and guts gross, but it does have things that are going to make you be like, oh, you're not going to want to really, look at the screen. You might look away a little bit, but it's more the thought of the gore than the actual gore that they show. But, good story, pretty good effects, good acting, interesting take on a fairy tale, and just, excellent overall. So I would say check out The Ugly Stepsister. So the next film I want to talk about is a little bit of a controversial film because for me, it would rank a lot higher. I would definitely put it in like the second tier. But I do understand this is not for everyone. A lot of people who watch it came out of it and they were like, nope, don't like it, wasn't for me. And then everyone else who kind of gets it and was enthralled by it swears that it's an amazing film. So it's definitely getting these mixed reviews, but that movie is Midsummer. And Midsummer, I would actually rank higher than any of these films. I really enjoyed Midsummer. If I'm really struggling where to put this. I can put this in Not For Everyone. I can put this in Not Too Scary. Even though it's more psychologically scary, and in that way it is quite terrifying, but it's not like, jump scares, or it's not like something that's going to keep you up at night. But it's definitely the thought of it. It deals with grief. It deals with manipulation. It deals with cults. It deals with cheating and drugs, and it just has so much involved in it. These folk horror films. It's really good. Check it out. But be warned, it might not be for you because it's not for everyone. Another film that has a similar reputation, it's another A24 film, but it's one that I'm going to rank higher because despite some of the naysayers of this film, I just think there's a lot of haters out there and people just don't get it. But I'm going to put The Witch. The Witch is not quite an essential film, but man, oh man, it's a really good horror film. And I actually am going to rate that higher than, not quite higher than Hellraiser, but I'm definitely going to rate it higher than Ugly Stepsisters. The Witch is scary. It's a beautiful looking film. It's got violence in it, but it's more realistic than over the top. There's some really tense and scary moments in the film. So the only negative that I could point out on the film, and it's not a negative for me at all, but for some people, it might be a little bit of an issue. So I would suggest watching the film with subtitles. It's a little bit hard to understand them. It's taken place way, way, way back in the day when everyone spoke funny. It's like during the Puritan era. I think it was like during the 1600s that the film takes place. So if that's going to be a bit of a distraction for you, or you're not quite sure that, you're following everything that they're saying, just put on the subtitles. It'll make it a little bit easier for you. Moving along, this one might be a little bit controversial because some people might consider it more of a thriller than a horror film, but trust me, it is a horror film. It's just not horror in the traditional sense. In fact, I'm going to talk about, two of these films consecutively, but the first one's going to be Misery. Absolutely essential. Misery, it stars Kathy Bates and James Caan, and I can't really say anything bad about it. It's a Stephen King adaptation. It's a very faithful Stephen King adaptation, and just definitely worth your time. So check that one out. Misery. I don't want to give away too much of it, but it's one of those films that you're just kind of on edge the whole time. Very well put together. Feels like a lower budget, more intimate film. And part of the reason why it feels that way is because most of it takes place in one room. And that's also one of the great and unique things about it. So really, it just leans heavy on the acting, and Kathy Bates and James Caan do a phenomenal job. So check out that. Definitely an essential. So the other one that people would consider controversial, that's also close to being an essential for me, and I'm actually going to put it in there. It's also considered more of a thriller than a horror, but again, it feels like a horror film, and that's going to be Seven. Now, before you blow my comments up, yes, it's a horror slash thriller, but the horror elements of the film are done really well. And the reason why I think a lot of people struggle with knowing the difference is because it feels like a whodunit, and it feels like that throughout most of the film. But the themes in it and the imagery of it is way more horrifying. If you really think about it, it's a serial killer film. But just, the protagonists are police officers. Two police officers in particular. I don't want to give too much away, but there's a scene in the film where there's three actors sitting in a car and they're having a conversation. And I will tell you, if there was ever a film that had a three-way dialogue, that was something that should be studied by, three amazing actors. Say what you will about the controversies behind some of these individuals. I'm not going to say who they are, but say what you will about that. The acting in that scene is absolutely amazing and definitely seals the deal for the film for me. So Seven is an essential. That might be controversial for some people, but, this is my list. And I do think that as a movie, You can't get too much better than this one. So the next one up is going to be a fun one for me. So this one, you could argue this probably doesn't belong on any type of essential list. But I'm going to say it is for one reason and one reason only, and that's the beginning of the film. The beginning of When a Stranger Calls is absolutely genius. And I wish the whole film would have been this way, but it's not. Once it gets to a certain part of the film, I always turn it off and I never watch it again. And if you stop it there, and you'll know what I'm talking about when you see it, it really just becomes something else. And it's not something that I go back to and I watch. But that first scene with the babysitter, I'll say that is absolutely amazing. So check that out. It's not for everyone. So let's ease this up a little bit. So I'm going to put an easy, light work, entry-level horror film that's not in the realm of comedy. Now, this is going to be scary, but it eases you in scary, and it's light in the sense where there's not a lot of violence, hardly any violence at all. There's a couple of jump scares in it, and it has an interesting twist on ghost stories and haunted houses, and that's The Others. The Others with Nicole Kidman. You can rank this as awesome second tier. It is a really good film, well acted, beautiful cinematography, nice twists and turns in the story and the plot. The Others is a great film, but I wanted to put an easy, light work, entry-level film on here. I'm going to rank this the highest because it is the best film so far on this level and really could be considered an awesome second tier, top-notch movie. So check out The Others, starring Nicole Kidman. Similarly, the next movie I want to talk about is The Sixth Sense. Now, this stars Haley Joel Osment and Bruce Willis. It's an M. Night Shyamalan film, and I'm going to actually put this at the awesome second tier list. I'm going to actually, well, you know what? I'm going to put it here. I'm actually going to put it here. This could also, just like The Others, both of these could easily be here. But I think if you're tuning into this video and you want to see something that's considered horror, scary, not quite scary, not gory, just something good, something again with some twists and turns in the story, then you really can't go wrong with either of these two. I'm actually going to keep The Others in front of The Sixth Sense, but some people might like The Sixth Sense a little bit more. And I'm going to go with another film that came out at a similar time frame that was overshadowed, but still a really top and good film to watch. I'm not going to put this film in the easy and light work. I'm going to actually put this in the good, not too scary, and that's Stir of Echoes starring Kevin Bacon. Now, I can get away with putting this at the awesome second tier, but I wouldn't consider it like an essential horror film. If we were just talking about like movies in general, then it could probably go here as a top-notch film. But for like essential horror films, this is a really good one. It's actually highly recommended. It's got a little bit more adult themes in the film than some of the other ones on the light work, so that's why it goes here and not in the bottom. There's some instances of abuse and themes like that might be a little bit heavy for some people, so I'm gonna keep it there. Good, not too scary, definitely a great movie. Don't let the not too scary fool you. Stir of Echoes is really good, and if you love Sixth Sense, if I didn't have this on the list, that would be a great pairing. Next movie up is going to be Psycho, Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. What can I say about Psycho? It is definitely an essential film. It's widely considered the first slasher film. Everyone knows the theme, kill sound of Psycho, and everyone is familiar with Norman Bates, and most people are familiar with the concept of what Psycho is, but surprisingly, a lot of people, especially younger people, have never seen it. Don't let the black and white, fool you. Don't let the age of the film fool you. It's a really great horror film, definitely an essential, definitely belongs up there in that top tier. I know recently my nephew saw it, and he's, almost 30 years old. and he loved it and he couldn't stop talking about it for weeks. So it's obviously an Alfred Hitchcock film. It stars Anthony Perkins and it also stars Janet Leigh. So obviously this is an Alfred Hitchcock film, one of his more, famous films. Stars Anthony Perkins and Janet Leigh. Janet Leigh, believe it or not, is the mother of Jamie Lee Curtis. So if you wondering where Jamie Lee Curtis got her final girl status, legendary final girl status from, she got it from her mom. With that said, we're going to go into our next essential, and that is going to be Halloween. Now, let me break this down a little bit. Over the years, I feel like Halloween has gotten a little bit of hate. Just a little bit. I fault the sequels for this. They continuously keep butchering the story and the timelines, and they're all over the map, and they haven't served this film well at all. And I just don't understand why. Some of the sequels in the 90s were decent, but again, not my favorites, wouldn't recommend them. I'm going to recommend the original Halloween, which is an essential. I think it's damn near a masterpiece. And I'm going to also recommend its sequel, Halloween 2. It's a direct follow-up of Halloween. Stars Jamie Lee Curtis and Donald Pleasence. So both of them, returning characters are in there. And absolutely worth a watch. So check out Halloween. It is a bona fide essential. And I'm actually going to put that higher than Misery and higher than Sixth Sense and Seven. And I'm also going to put Psycho higher than those as well. So next one up, we have Michael Myers, who was the main villain in Halloween. And now we're going to go to Jason Voorhees, one that's usually compared to Michael Myers. So we're going to go actually with Friday the 13th Part 1. So here's the thing. I don't want to spoil too much if you've never seen this, but don't expect too much of Jason in Friday the 13th. That story progresses in the sequels. But if I had to tell you which movies to watch, I would definitely watch Friday the 13th Part 1. I would then watch the sequel, Part 2. Part 2 isn't as good as Part 1. Part 2 isn't as good as some of the other ones I would mention. But just so you can see the evolution of Jason, I think it's important to see Part 2. But the ones I would highly recommend would be 1, 4, and 6. And if you really want some shits and giggles later on, they have Friday the 13th and A Nightmare on Elm Street, which is, Freddy versus Jason. So if you really want some comedy, mixed into that, then you can watch that as well. But the essentials for me on Friday the 13th is Part 1, Part 4, and Part 6. You can also watch Part 2 just so you can see the evolution. Now, I might do some final adjustments on this list. I might change some things up once I'm looking at it, right? So, as I'm trying to piece everything together, there might be some changes I'm going to make. So just bear with me. And, the more I'm thinking about it, the more, just to be fair to the list and fair to the films, as far as good movies are concerned, I can't really justify keeping Friday the 13th at that second tier. I really can't. I'm going to put it on the not for everyone, and I'm going to put it higher than The Omen, but not quite as high as Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. I think that's where it should sit, because it really is not for everyone, and it wouldn't be fair to, put it in a category with these films. So the next one up I'm going to put here is The Blair Witch Project. Wow. Blair Witch Project. Where would we put that? So I am going to put The Blair Witch Project. I'm going to put it here at the awesome second tier. Let me explain a little bit, just a little bit of history for me on The Blair Witch Project. My ex-wife and I were looking for something to do one weekend. And I remember she had read some newspaper article. When she brought it up to me, I was like, oh my goodness, I read something today about that too. And we were both like, oh, okay, well, and we were talking about it, and we were like, Blair Witch Project. And we called every theater and nobody was playing it. We finally found some theater in the middle of nowhere. I remember we called the theater, bought our tickets, and then drove like an hour and a half away to this little rinky-dink theater that was playing it. And we watched it, and we came out of it blown away because we didn't realize what we had just witnessed. And I would say that that's the first real found footage movie I've ever seen. And I think it's really technically the first intentional found footage film that was done that way. The whole point of that film, it's not the best done found footage film since that one, but because it's the original and because we thought it was real, the impact of it was huge. Not even a couple of weeks later, maybe a couple of weeks later, maybe a month later, it started catching traction, right? Word of mouth. And we were part of, a bunch of people who had seen it and were talking about it. And then it just blew up. And then it was playing everywhere. But I remember when I first saw the Blair Witch Project, I was the only one, and we were the only ones that had seen it, and we couldn't stop talking about it. So maybe a little bit of nostalgia there, but I definitely put it at that second tier. So I think we need a good but not too scary horror film on this list. And for that, I'm going to put the original Scream. Now, I know a lot of you are going to lose your minds on me because a lot of you feel like this is an essential. It is not an essential. Sorry, I hate to break it to you. You could argue that all of these films are an essential film, but when I say essential, the must-see, the top tier, I think you could miss this film and you'd be quite all right. I don't even think it's Wes Craven's best horror film, but I think it's a very good horror film. And I think there are some scary moments to it. There's some funny moments to it, but I think this stays appropriately here. This is not a bad tier to be in. Good, not too scary is a great tier to be in. If you're coming into this and you're starting to watch horror films for the first time, I'd say after you've seen some of the classics, Elm Street, Halloween, you've seen Friday the 13th, after you've seen those, this is a great follow-up film to watch. And it's definitely worth a check out, and so are many of its sequels. So, I think it fits there perfectly. So the next one up I'm going to put here is Martyrs. Martyrs, what can I say about this film? This film gives me no joy. I struggled even putting this on the list. The only reason why it's on the list is because I know a lot of people do revere it as one of those movies that you watch. But let me just warn you, the violence is unsettling to say the least. It's brutal. And it's not an enjoyable watch. So why is it on here? Well, because of the reasons that I mentioned. It's also a film that once you start watching, it's hard not to, watch. It's you want to look away, but it's one of those movies where you just kind of keep watching and you just start asking yourself, why? Why am I watching this? And for some people, that element of horror is worthy of watching. Is that a movie that I would recommend for anyone coming into this? No. If you're a beginner, no. This is not an essential for a beginner. But the reason why it's on this list is to help you avoid watching something like this. You might have some sicko friend who's like, oh, it's not that scary. Oh, it's not that bad. And technically speaking, it's not the most violent film and it's not the scariest film. But man, oh man, it is horrifying. Martyrs and pairings like a Serbian film or, there's a whole bunch of them. I really wouldn't recommend them for, new people coming into this. So for the crazy people, for sure. So let's keep it moving here. The next one I'm going to have on the list is the original Night of the Living Dead. And where is this going to go? This is going to go on the essentials list. Yes, it's an old film. Yes, there have been some zombie films after it. But the original, can't deny it's an essential. I'm going to put this a little bit higher on the list than these two. The reason why these two are, they're going to keep going lower and lower is because they do kind of skate that, thriller horror line. So not to hold that against them, because thriller and horror are, many consider that one and the same, but just to be fair to the list and what I'm trying to, put together here, that's how it's going to work. But these essentials here don't all necessarily mean this film is better than that one because it's above. There's going to definitely be some merging when it comes to some of these tiers. The next one I want to talk about is Pet Sematary. Pet Sematary is really great, serviceable, good horror film. Not totally for everybody. I don't think it's aged too well in certain areas. I think a lot of people prefer the novel to the film. But I'm going to put it here as an awesome second tier. So the next one up, I'm going to talk about Barbarian. Barbarian, I think, is very underrated. And I think Barbarian belongs in that second tier. And I'm actually going to put it, I'm going to put it right above The Ugly Stepsisters. I think it's pretty intense, pretty scary. And it has one moment that is so gross, but it's not gross with blood. It's not gross with bones breaking, and I don't want to spoil it, but let's say it's gross with milk. And it's a good movie. It has a lot of twists and turns. It definitely has you on the edge of your seat, and it's a modern film, and I think it came out in 2024. 2024, 2023. I'm not exactly sure, but definitely worth a watch. So speaking of Barbarian, the director of Barbarian followed up that movie with Weapons. Weapons came out last year in 2025. Already got the sequel in the works, and I gotta tell you, it was one of my favorite films in 2025, and I definitely have it up there. Kind of has a little bit of everything. It's got great storytelling. The story is not linear the way they present it. It's kind of, kind of jumping all over the place as far as the timeline is concerned. It has some really, really cool gore and special effects. It's not overdone. It's done just right. It's got that right amount of creep factor. It really is in a lot of ways a perfect horror film. I think over time it might actually rank up there as an essential must-see. For me, it is, but I think for most people, that film was a bit overshadowed by the next one I'm going to talk about, which is a shame because in some ways I do prefer Weapons. In some ways I do prefer the next one that I'm going to talk about, and that is Sinners. So Sinners is a great film, and I'm going to put that actually, where is it going to go? I'm actually going to keep it. Nope. I'm going to put it here. I'm going to put it as essential must see. Not 100% where I would rank it as far as me being a veteran horror film person, but if you are just coming into the genre, you want something that has a good story, great presentation, good acting, good special effects, good suspense, great music. It's hard to say really anything is better than Sinners in the last couple of years in the horror genre. But again, it kind of rides that line, right? So because it has so much more to it, some people don't consider it a horror film, which is absolutely insane to me. Where is that going to go? I'm actually going to put this a little bit higher on the list, and it is going to go right. I'm going to put it above. I'm going to put it above. I'm going to put it above Night of the Living Dead. I don't think it has quite the impact of Psycho and Halloween, but it's a much newer film, and let's see, over time where it sits. So the next one up, I'm going to put Carnival of Souls. I'm going to put Not For Everyone. I believe it came out in 1962. It's a good film. I just don't remember too much about it, and I know a lot of people kind of have it, ranked a little bit higher. Some of these films on this list I've watched one time. Some of them I've watched 100 times. Some of them I've watched even more. I know for some people that's hard to believe, but yeah, I definitely, my go-tos and the ones that I love, I will keep going back to them. I'll study them. I'll analyze them. I'll show them off to other people. I'll watch reaction videos on them. Carnival of Souls is one that I did not do that. Don't feel like it had that big of an impact on me. But I know it does mean a lot to a lot of people, and I do think that it is essential in the sense that it's one of those classic films that people do like and people do still talk about. And again, this isn't a perfect list. There's going to be a ton of movies that I've left off the list for one reason or another, but that's where you guys come in. So please correct me if you think I'm wrong. If you have any other suggestions, something that I miss, I definitely want to hear it. But let's move right along. I don't want to keep this video too long. The next one is going to be, and I'm cheating a little bit here. This is going to be the Universal Classic Horror Films. these films came from like the 20s all the way to the 60s. So, we're talking about Frankenstein, and we're talking about Bride of Frankenstein and Dracula, and all of those films, the Universal classic films. I'm going to put those as essential must-sees. I don't think every single one is an essential must-see, but I do think that it's important for anyone who's trying to get into this genre, and anyone who wants to see, the things that kind of created the genre and made it what it is today. I know it's a little bit cheating putting a whole bunch of them on the list, but quite frankly, there's just too many films. So let's get to the next film. So I'm going to talk about the most recent film on this list, and that is Obsession. Obsession is blowing up. Everybody's talking about it. Everyone loves it. And it's a very good horror film. I love it. Is it an essential must-see? It is not. I would put Obsession as somewhere in that awesome second tier list. I do think it's better than Pet Sematary. I do think it's better than Blair Witch. I do think it's better than Ugly Stepsister. And I do think I think it's better than Barbarian. And I would put it right above The Witch. Yeah, I think it sits comfortably there. I didn't like it more than Weapons. I don't like it more than Hellraiser, but Obsession is really good. And I don't even know if I like it better than A Witch or Barbarian, but, for the sake of this list, I'll keep it there for now. So here's going to be a controversial one. The next one I got here is Let Me In. Let Me In, I have this also on the second tier, and I have it I'm going to put it right above Barbarian. A lot of people might prefer the original version of this film called Let the Right One In. It's a French film. There are certain things about that film that I can't vibe with. It gets a little bit too weird for me in one of the scenes in particular. And it just wasn't my vibe. And also, I do prefer the American 80s aesthetic of Let Me In. So that's the one I prefer. I know some people prefer Let the Right One In, but you can't go wrong with either one. So I would say that's the pairing that I would do. But for me, I definitely would prefer and do prefer Let Me In. Very good film. So the next film I want to talk about is a horror comedy. And I think this might be the only official horror comedy that I might have as a essential must-see. I don't know why I love this movie so much. I don't even understand why the world loves this movie so much, because sometimes I watch it and I'm just like, bro, this is silly as hell. But I have to go with it. It's Young Frankenstein. You can't go wrong with Young Frankenstein. Gene Wilder is a master at this, and I would recommend it after you've seen some of the Universal classics. It adds a lot more context once you've seen those or some of those. Next one up, horror comedy, more of a dark comedy film, if you want to even call it that. I know that's how it's listed, but I consider this more like a teeny bopper horror film. It's like the Twilight of the 90s or the late 80s, and that's The Lost Boys. Lost Boys, I think it's good, not too scary. I don't consider it an essential must-see. It's an essential. If it's on this list, it's somewhat of an essential. But I do think it's one of those horror films that's a little bit overrated. I know some people aren't going to agree with me on that. Some people absolutely adore it, but I never really got into it. I watched it, and then I watched it again, and then people would try to convince me, oh, it's so good. And then I'd go back and see it again. And every time I come out of it, I'm just like, it really didn't do much for me. But you know what film did? You know what film I really loved that was also a vampire horror comedy around that time? And that's Fright Night. I love Fright Night. And this is going to be controversial, but this is my list. I'm putting it also as an essential must-see horror film. I think if you want horror comedy, I think the two top ones that I feel are a must-see is Young Frankenstein and Fright Night. That's going to be a little controversial. Not everyone's going to agree with me, and that's okay. That's why we have these conversations and we do this tier list, so that way, it can spark conversation, not debate, not anything for anyone to get angry about, but just, hey, what do you think? And that's interesting, and this is why I think what I think, and we move on. So let's go into two films that I kind of rank a little bit similarly. They're different films altogether, but they hold a similar place for me where they're two films that I've seen before and I've watched when I was younger. Never stuck to me. Never understood what the real hype about it was, or let alone the idea of them, trying to do sequels or people asking for sequels. They just never really grabbed me, but I understand that their place on this list. There's a lot of films that could fall into that I did not kind of consider and did not put on there because I didn't want to have this whole thing flooded with movies that I'm a little bit iffy on. But for the sake of this list, it's actually a couple of them. It's more than just two. So the first one I'm going to put, and I'm going to just put it on the not for everyone list, is going to be Wicker Man. It just didn't do too much for me. If you like movies like Midsummer, you might like that. I think Midsummer is a better film, but that's just my opinion. I know a lot of people won't agree with that. I'm also going to put Black Christmas there as well. Just another one of those films that I know a lot of people kind of rank high. And a controversial one that I'm also going to stick on here is going to be Salem's Lot. Another one just really didn't do too much for me, but I recognize its place and I recognize, why people are so passionate about it. So those movies, I'm kind of just throwing them in there. Almost didn't even include them on a list, but just wanted to get through that real quick. The next one up is going to be Creepshow. Creepshow, I think, and this is going to be a little bit controversial, I think this is going to go in the easy, light work category. So let me break this down. Creepshow is an anthology film. It's one of those movies where it's just a bunch of little stories, one after the other, and there's like a, main presentation. And the original one is really good. I really, really like it. It's got some gore. It's got some scares. But it's nothing too scary and it's nothing too gory, at least I think. The most cringiest one is, in my mind, and when I say cringy, I mean the one that makes you squirm the most, is I'm just going to say it, there's a scene with a lot of roaches. And if you are scared of bugs and you're scared of roaches, this is going to horrify you. I'm not even going to lie. Like, this is going to really horrify you when you get to that part. But you're going to know it almost immediately. But it's good. It's really, really good. And I really love it. And yeah, Creepshow, I think it's just, as the years go by, I think it just remains, very underrated. I'm actually going to put this a little bit higher on the list. I actually think it's a better film than both Gremlins and Tremors. Not quite as good as The Sixth Sense. So yeah, check out Creepshow. It's a good early entry film, but keep in mind, it's going to hit some people pretty hard. The next one up, I feel that this is another easy, light work for a lot of people. Everyone knows the character, so I think it's safe to say that I think Chucky is a good entry film. So Child's Play, the original one. I also like Child's Play 2, and I like the Child's Play, I think it was 2013. I think that version was also pretty good, so that's a good pairing. But the original Child's Play, yeah, it's definitely a decent one for an entry-level horror film. So yeah, check that one out. I am going to upset a lot of people with this one. I'm going to rank it appropriately, but I'm going to give my opinion on this film. And nobody's going to agree with me on this. But I'm only going to rank it appropriately because my opinion isn't the only opinion that counts here. But I'm going to warn you. I still don't understand why this movie is so popular. I don't understand why it's so revered. I don't understand how anyone is even scared of this movie whatsoever. And this is why I'm struggling, whether to put it in the essential list or put it in the, easy light work entry level, because I really don't, unless you're deeply afraid of the beach and the ocean, I don't understand why anyone is terrified of Jaws. I just don't get it. I don't think it's that great of a film. I think it's campy. I think it's silly. I think the effects I don't think they've aged well. I didn't like it when I was a kid. I don't get what's so essential about this film. And so many people love it so much. I've seen people rank it as the scariest horror film ever made, which is a joke to me. It's a joke. I don't think I ever even felt nervous watching it as a kid. I would always just watch it and just be like, what is this? So I'm struggling between putting it here as the easy light work entry level or putting it on the essential, the must see. I'm going to actually just be true to who I am, and I'm going to put it down here. That doesn't mean that I'm not acknowledging how other people feel about the film. But I think anyone new coming into horror films, I think if you want to sit down and you want to watch Jaws, you may get some enjoyment out of it. It's a good movie, but I don't understand the insane amount of hype behind the film. But with that said, I do think if you're looking for something new and you kind of want to see something that's not too scary, again, the caveat is if the beach and the water and the idea of sharks terrifies you, then this might hit you a little bit harder. But if it's something you're not too concerned with, then this is an easy movie to recommend, for someone just coming into the genre. All right, we are starting to get into the nitty gritty. So I'm going to pick up the pace a little bit on these because some of these I don't really need to explain too much. So the next one up is going to be Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer. That's for the crazy people. Similar to Martyrs in a sense where I get no joy watching it. It's not something that I'm just like, ooh, this is fun. It's not fun. It's grim. It's gross. It's horrible. I would pair with this one is Last House on the Left and also American Psycho with Christian Bale. I like American Psycho a lot more than I do this. But I do think that American Psycho, a lot of people see it as more of a psychological thriller than a horror. So it's kind of somewhere in that realm, but not quite. So if you like Henry or any of those movies, those are good pairings I would check out. The next one up is Cabin in the Woods. I'm going to put Cabin in the Woods right here also in the easy light work. I think Cabin in the Woods, if you've seen films like The Evil Dead and, other, more classic horror films, you're going to appreciate Cabin in the Woods. Next one up is Children of the Corn. I am going to put Children of the Corn also here at the easy light work. I think it's one of those films you just kind of throw it on, you laugh at it. It is a little bit scary. There's some creepy parts. There's a really violent scene in the beginning, but I think for me, this is a nostalgia film, and I'm definitely going to do a breakdown on my experience with Children of the Corn. I feel like I have a unique story when it comes to my first experience with the movie that I like to share. So that, will be coming in the near future. And let me know if you guys are interested in more of the personal stories as to, my journey with some of these films. But Children of the Corn definitely, I think, belongs in an easier watch. It's not a perfect film. Again, I said it's, nostalgia for me. So you might watch it and be like, this was a piece of shit. But it does star Linda Hamilton, and she later on, became Sarah Connor in The Terminator. So if you want to see, an earlier film with her, you should check this one out. Next one up, I'm going to put is Terror in the Isles. Now, Terror in the Isles, I'm going to actually put this in the, this might need its own tier because it's just a documentary film with a compilation of horror films from the 80s and, and prior generations. And it talks about everything from the special effects to the scariest movies, and it breaks down movies like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Exorcist, Rosemary's Baby, Invasion of the Body Snatchers. It talks about other, less known films like Vice Squad or Village of the Damned. I know a lot of you have seen that. It breaks down a lot of movies, and it stars Donald Pleasence and Nancy Allen, and they do a phenomenal job kind of presenting it, right? They also talk about Halloween and just they talk about horror tropes. It's really good. It's something that I used to watch over and over as a kid. So after you've watched a good amount of these films, if you've seen a lot of horror films from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, I would definitely check it out. I know that sounds like a lot. I just listed off a bunch of decades, but this is worth a watch. And it might even inspire you to want to check out some of the other films that are on there. One of my favorite scenes is there's a scene where they're showing a clip from Scanners that is not on this list, but everyone who's seen Scanners and everyone knows about, the one scene. You've probably even seen a meme of it. You'll know what I'm talking about. And Tyranny Isles does highlight that, which is pretty cool. But I'm going to put this here as an easy light work, but with caution, because they do show, they do show some stuff in some of the clips, but it's just going over clips of horror films, and I think it's a pretty good one. Next one up is going to be Reanimator. I think this is one of those campier horror films, and I think it definitely has its place. I'm going to put it in a good, not too scary. And another film similar to that I actually do like quite a bit better, and I'm going to put it actually in the second tier list, is going to be Return of the Living Dead. I love Return of the Living Dead. I think it's my favorite zombie movie. I like it better than A Night of the Living Dead, which I have here as an essential. I like it better than any of the modern films. I like it better than any of the Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead. It is my favorite one, Return of the Living Dead. Pure comedy, pure dark humor, best zombie designs, I think, ever. Brains. I love everything about it. So if you like those style of movies, if you like zombies, check that one out. It's an easier watch too, even though there's some gore and it's comedy, but I think when you walk out of it, I think the impression is more that was awesome, that was hilarious, that was great, as opposed to, okay, I got out of that one. I think you'll appreciate that one, but it could technically also be considered light work. So I have an interesting one here for you guys. This one's a bit underrated. I don't see this one popping up too much on streaming services. I don't hear too many people talking about it, but I absolutely love this film. It is called Near Dark. It is a vampire film. It stars Bill Paxton, Lance Henriksen, and Jeanette Goldstein. I know some of you might not recognize some of their names, but trust me, when you see their faces, you've seen them in, films in the 80s and the 90s. You've definitely seen them, trust me. And if you're not sure, just look them up. You'll know what I'm talking about, but they do a phenomenal job. They also have Joshua Miller on there, who's the son of Jason Miller, who plays Father Karras in The Exorcist. And he has actually a pretty cool, role in the film. Near Dark, it's amazing. It's from the perspective of the vampires and the vampire crew, if you will, and a lot of it. And there's a wonky scene towards the end where, I'll say it involves a blood transfusion that some people just like, all right, stop. But other than that, I think it's really well done, really great. Bill Paxton is awesome in this movie. So I'm going to put this one, again, ranking it, I'm going to put it at the good, not too scary. And I do like it better than The Lost Boys, and Reanimator. So I'm going to stick it there. Actually, you know what? I actually like it better than Scream as well. That's controversial, if it's better than Scream, but I like it better than Scream. So I'm not going to say it's better than Scream or Stir of Echoes, but I prefer it. And I actually prefer Stir of Echoes over Scream. So yeah, there we go. Next movie up is Carrie, and I know a lot of people will put this as the essential must-see, and I kind of went back and forth with it, but I'm actually going to agree with that. I'm going to put it there, and I'm actually going to bring these. Actually, I'm not going to bring that above there, but I'm going to put Young Frankenstein a little bit higher than some of these. Yeah. Misery. Yeah. So again, these aren't rankings necessarily on which ones are my favorites. So for instance, I think Misery, I think Seven, I think they're technically better films than some of the ones that are here. I think they're better films than Sinners or Night of the Living Dead. But where they rank as far as the essentials and, the place of horror, I think, that's debatable. I think Sinners is still a little bit yet to determine as far as the longevity is concerned. So I'm going to kind of just bring this out here a little bit. I think it's really close between Sinners and Weapon. So, just wanted to change that a bit. The next two up is going to be Good, Not Too Scary. It's going to also be X and Pearl. I separated these two, but if I had to pick one, it's definitely Pearl. I definitely think Pearl was better. She has this monologue scene, Mia Goth, that's amazing. But if you want to check out Jenna Ortega in an earlier role. You could check her out. She's also in X. Not going to talk too much about those, but I think they're good. They're not too scary. X has some scary moments in it, though. I'm not going to lie. More creepy than scary, but it's not anything too horrifying. I think most people can handle it. So the next two films I want to talk about are also essential must-sees, and they rank pretty high for me. And those films are going to be both Alien, which I rank higher than Halloween, and also it's going to be The Thing, which I rank. I have these two essentially as a draw. I don't know why I can't seem to pick one over the other, but if I had to say which one I watch more, I think I watch The Thing a little bit more, but I think I show off to people Alien more. So a good pairing with Alien will obviously be Aliens. I also did like Prometheus. I know a lot of people didn't like that one, but yeah, I really love The Thing, and I think it's definitely an essential must-see. If you really want to see like the best horror films, these might not necessarily all be the first horror films you should see, but they're the ones that you should not miss. And The Thing and Alien are, among the top. So just wanted to, say that. Another film I want to talk about that I think is really, really good and could be considered even better than Sinners, maybe even better than Weapons for some people, is going to be Get Out. Get Out is an amazing film. Really like Get Out. Great messaging, great acting. Feels a little bit like Rosemary's Baby in a lot of ways. I know that there was some influence. Jordan Peele was influenced by that. But yeah, Get Out is definitely, one you should check out. And another one that I will put up there as well will be Black Phone. Actually, I think as horror films go, I think I prefer the Black Phone over that. The Black Phone is just freaking great. I didn't see the sequel. I heard that the sequel wasn't too great. I haven't seen the sequel yet. I've kind of held off on it. I definitely will catch it. But if you've seen the first one or you go to see the first one, keep in mind it's a bit scary, but it could borderline be an easy light work. But I'll put it up here just because of the themes and just because it is a little bit scary for like an entry level. But if you've graduated from the horror elementary school and you're going to middle school, that might be a one you might want to check out. So the next one up is another essential, and we're going to start hitting a lot of the essentials right now. So now I got a Nightmare on Elm Street. Nightmare on Elm Street goes all the way up. The original Nightmare on Elm Street, I think, is a bona fide classic. I think it is probably my favorite slasher of all time, the original one. I think Heather Langenkamp, who plays Nancy, is the ultimate scream queen. I think she's such a badass. I think Freddy, his introduction to horror films was absolutely amazing. Was so scary when it first came out. He did such a great job, Robert Englund. It's almost to the point where he was so good in the Elm Street and the ones that followed that people refused to give anyone else a chance to play Freddy Krueger. And I'm almost scared that the franchise can't really continue without him. And it looks like that's what's going to happen. So, because I know they're supposedly working on another one. But the original Elm Street is amazing. Good pairings for the original Elm Street would be Nightmare on Elm Street 2 and 3. I really do love those. Moving on from that, we have The Grudge, also known as Ju-On. I don't care which version you watch. I prefer Ju-On a little bit over The Grudge. I think these are pretty scary, but I don't think they're for everyone. And that's why I'm going to put it here. I feel like for the longest, this and The Ring, and I'm going to put The Ring here too. I like The Ring a little bit better. Actually, I like The Ring a lot better. I'm going to put The Ring right behind The Omen, and I'm going to put this right above those as well. So yeah, I like The Ring and I like The Grudge. Some people prefer, the original versions. The American versions are remakes, but they're essentially the same in most aspects. Scary, creepy. I don't think that they've aged that well as far as some of the horror tropes, you know, the little noises and, you know, the crawling out of the TV. It's been memed and watched so many times that before you even get to watch the film, you've probably already seen some of the scariest scenes in the film because it's just been played so much. That's not a knock on those films. They're good movies, but it's the reason why I wouldn't put them on a second, you know, awesome second tier list, which I think a lot of people would. Some people might even put them in the, you know, essentials, the must see, but I wouldn't agree with that. So George C. Scott, he is in some of my favorite films. I love Firestarter, not on this list, but I love Firestarter. And he's in that. I loved him in The Exorcist 3. I loved him in Patton. I loved him in a lot of films, but The Changeling, you know, this was him in horror, and this was, he has like a certain gravity and a certain way he kind of presents himself. Every time I've seen a movie with him, he captivates me. He's just one of those actors that, you know, really knows how to deliver a line, really knows how to kind of look at the camera a certain way. I mean, he really delivers it, and I think he did a good job on this. This is a classic haunted house film. You know, with a bit of a twist. There's some differences. Some of the effects are a little bit outdated, and you know, some of the cinematography and the way they film things, you know, you can definitely see it's an older film. Not saying it doesn't hold up well, but you know, I've only gone back and seen it a couple of times, mostly because I don't want to ruin the memory of, you know, what I had. Sometimes that happens, right? I don't see a movie for a long time. I go back and I watch it, and I'm like, it wasn't as good as I remember it. And I don't want that to be spoiled with this movie. So I really don't go back and watch it. A good pairing for this, for some weird reason, not that they're related or connected, but if you like this film, I feel like a similar film falls into a similar category for me, and that's Flowers in the Attic. Again, not the same, but it gives me a weird vibe that's similar. Same thing with People Under the Stairs. I don't know. I just get this weird similar feeling when I watch those movies, but trust me, they're not the same. But The Changeling is definitely one of those underrated films. I think it's usually overshadowed by like the Amityvilles and other movies with supernatural spirits or whatever. But I'm gonna put that at the good, not too scary. You know, because of its age and because of the way some of the presentation is. I don't think too many people are going to be too scared of it. Another movie I will put in that category as well would be Invasion of the Body Snatchers. That's a really good one. It's a little bit scarier than I think a lot of people give it credit for, but it's done differently. It's an early Jeff Goldblum film. You'll see him in the movie. He's not the main actor. It's Donald Sutherland. And I really like Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Pretty good practical effects even to this day. So I think I'm gonna put it. I think I'm gonna put it on the awesome second tier list. I think it's a pretty good one. So I'm gonna stick it there. Return of the Living Dead, that needs to be higher. What am I doing? I actually like it better than a lot of these movies. I'll put it right behind Get Out. Okay. Wreck is another found footage type of movie. I think the American version is known as Quarantine. I like Quarantine, good pairing. You can pick either one. I think most people prefer the original one. I'm going to put that at the awesome second tier list. That one goes a little bit higher than some of these. I'll stick it right there for now. Really good movie. Next one is The Conjuring. The Conjuring, I think, goes into the awesome tier list. Conjuring is fantastic. It's scary. There have been already a ton of sequels, and you know, Annabelle, and you know, just all of the other things that come with it. But the original Conjuring is really where it's at. It has one of the best jump scares ever. Not to be outdone, I think Insidious also falls into that tier, and I actually prefer Insidious over The Conjuring. Overall, I think Insidious has a super high creep factor. I think it's really scary. I think they're similar films with a lot of the same actors, and you know, I really love Insidious. Again, another film with a bunch of sequels, and they're kind of, you know, running it to the ground. I don't think any of the sequels match the first one at all. I do like the second one. The second one was really cool, but that's a good pairing. But if you like Insidious and you like The Conjuring and you like some of these modern horror films, and some of them have been great, it's hard to look past those. So those are really good. Awesome second tier, to the essential must-sees. But some people might put them in the must-sees, and they're really, really close. I think I'm going to put them in there. And I think I'm going to put them above Sinners. I think they are essential must-sees. I think I'm underselling them because their impact was really great, when it comes to, modern horror films today. So, yeah, I think they deserve it. And yeah, I'm actually going to stick Black Phone there. I've been struggling back and forth with this. I'm also going to change Hellraiser, and I'm also going to put Hellraiser on the essentials. Now that this is kind of coming into a bigger picture, I got to consider what Hellraiser did for, horror films in general, and Clive Barker, what he's been able to do. So I think it definitely belongs here. Where it ranks as far as how good of a movie it is, it's kind of up there, but it also would fall into the not for everyone category because of some of the imagery and some of the violence of it. Might turn some audience members off. I wouldn't say that this is a movie you go right into, but now that I'm looking at the list and it's starting to become a little bit more clear, that's where I'm going to put it. And I'm actually going to stick it right above these. Yeah, it's got to be like right around there. All right, moving on. Pan's Labyrinth. This is a top tier film. This film is as good as almost any movie here. It's not going to go in the essential because it's a dark fantasy. So for that, it does lose a little bit of the points. But if you want to see something that's not too scary, that's really good, I can put it in this tier list here. But this is an awesome movie. And I think you come out of this movie more so like, man, that was amazing. There is some serious violence on there and some heavy themes in here as well. And that's also why it kind of goes there. It's not the scariest film. So if you're kind of a lightweight and you want some easy work, but the themes are a little bit heavy. So with all of that said, Pan's Labyrinth actually, it goes higher than pretty much everything here on this list. It's really good. Next one up is Paranormal Activity. I'm going to straight up say it. This goes under the easy light work. A lot of people find this movie very scary, but most of it is just sound design. Most of it is just a bunch of thumping and, watching videotapes and seeing something creepy. And for a lot of people, that's very terrifying. That's very scary, but it is an easy movie for people to get into. And I think part of the popularity of this film, another found footage one, I don't think it's as good as Blair Witch Project. I'm not a big fan of the Paranormal Activities, but I think the reason why it was so popular is because it was a good entry film for horror movies, and I definitely respect it for that. Moving on, I'm going to put The Substance. The Substance is also an easy one to get into, but here's the difference with The Substance. The Substance is, and I rank this really high, I really think that this is a great film. Seeing Demi Moore back in the movies and doing a film like this, and just how vulnerable she was, and just some of the scenes that she did was quite amazing. Margaret Qualley, I think I'm butchering her name, but she's also quite amazing. Beautiful. I love every time I see her. There's something about her face, the way she's able to, express thoughts with just her face. She does that really well, I think. I don't know if it has something to do with her eyebrows or her eyes, but she's definitely really good and a great counterpart to Demi Moore. This is considered a body horror film. So there is some gore in the film. There is some nudity, and that might be hard for some people coming into it. There's a, big subplot in the film that's a little bit heavy-handed, but if you can kind of get past those elements, it's really good. I really loved it. It came out, when did it come out? It came out in 2024, and I think it was one of those films that was a little bit overlooked, as horror films tend to be. But I think for those who have seen it, have given it a lot of praise, and it definitely is deserving of that. So check that out. And also, I will recommend pairing that with another movie on this list, and the other movie is The Ugly Stepsister. So, similar themes, similar concepts, but just the delivery is much different. Next movie up is The Exorcist of Emily Rose. I am going to put that under the not for everyone category. I love The Exorcism of Emily Rose. It is truly terrifying, especially if you're scared of possession films. It gets pretty intense. The ending is really wild. But it's not for everyone. It's part horror film, part courtroom drama, and then even some of the mental health aspects of it, and versus religion is quite controversial. But if you can look past that, it's a really scary movie. Has some great scares. Definitely more intense than some of the other horror films in the lower tiers. So just keep that in mind. Not for everyone, but I really enjoyed it, and I actually enjoyed it quite a bit. So, yep, I'm going to put it right there at number 2. Not for everyone. Next one up is the Amityville Horror. Amityville Horror is considered an essential from a lot of people. I'm going to put it at the second tier list. I think it's a very good film. I think you can go without it. I think there are better horror films. And I know that sounds crazy to some people, but I actually think overall Insidious and The Conjuring are better haunted house movies. I will stick with that. I know a lot of people think that's crazy, but even though the Amityville came first and it's supposedly based on a true story and all this other stuff, and it's the movie that got a lot of these films going, I just don't think it's as good as those other films. And yeah, come at me in the comments, but be nice. It's just a movie tier list. 28 Days Later is not really a movie that I watch often. I've seen it a couple of times. The original one is excellent. Some of the sequels are excellent. The recent one that came out, a lot of people did like it. I'm going to put that right here. It's scary. If you're scared of zombies and scared of the idea of being chased in isolation, it's definitely scary. I wouldn't put it in the not too scary list. It's a little bit scarier. That's where it'll sit for now. The next movie up is going to be some more zombie films. So I'm going to stick these here in a good but not too scary. I do not find Dawn of the Dead scary whatsoever. When I watched it originally, it was more for the practical effects. It was more like, oh my God, did you see that? And the same thing, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, both of them gave me that same kind of feeling. I prefer Return of the Living Dead and Night of the Living Dead to those, but I know some people prefer these more. I'm also putting Train to Busan in that same category where it's, good, not too scary. There are intense moments in Train to Busan, but I don't find it something that sticks with me. Great film, but I just don't quite rank it as something that stuck with me. And again, horror and scariness is subjective. I tend to be less scared of zombie type films. They just don't really do it for me that way in most cases. Candyman. Anyway, Candyman. I love Candyman. It's a great horror film. And I think it's underrated. I think the original one is underrated. I really believe that. I think people know of it. People have watched it, but I don't think a lot of people have fully really embraced this film. I would say that this is an awesome second tier, and I definitely have it higher than a lot of the movies on this list. I'm going to put it right above here, and I'm actually going to put record. Yeah, I think that's about right. Yeah, I think that's about right. Actually, no. Blair Witch Project should go higher. Okay, so the next one up is Suspiria. Well, I really like Suspiria, and I also like the 2018 remake. So the original one came out in 1977, and this is the one we're talking about here. Great Pairing is the 2018 remake of it. I thought it was good. A lot of people didn't like it as much or hated it, but I thought it was pretty good. The ballet scene really did it for me. If you know, you know. But more gory than scary, more suspenseful than scary, a lot more cinematography and abstract look to it than scary. More atmosphere than scary. I'm gonna put it in the good but not too scary tier list. And actually, I'm gonna stick that right around there. And I'm actually gonna bring Lost Boys down here. I'm sorry, I'm just not a fan of the Lost Boys. Next one up is It Follows. It Follows is an awesome second tier list. I'll put it right around here. I think, oh, well, let me go back. A good pairing for Suspiria for me is a film called Saint Maud. Check out Saint Maud. It's a slow burn, but the ending is worth it. The messaging in the film is really good, but it gives me that same kind of uncomfortable kind of feeling. So Saint Maud is not on this list, but if you like Suspiria, if you like The Substance, if you like films like that, you're probably going to dig Saint Maud a lot. So the 1986 version of The Fly is one of my favorite body horror films, and I think that I'm going to put that here as an essential must see. I think it really, I think that's the movie that made Jeff Goldblum like a legend. I know a lot of people know him more from Jurassic Park, but nah, don't even kid yourself. Don't play yourself. Jeff Goldblum in The Fly is amazing. Gina Davis is amazing. The practical effects are absolutely insane, still hold up really well. The Fly is really good. And I'm actually going to rank that one a little bit higher than some of these other movies. Yeah, Fright Night has to go higher. Yeah, Fright Night is my movie. Night of the Living Dead, I'm going to bring that down here. I think that's where it should sit. Yeah, so that's looking pretty good. All right, we're coming to the end here. All right, so the next movie is It. I know a lot of people prefer the Tim Curry's version of Pennywise in the 1986 It, but yeah, I prefer the 2017 version. I just think it's a better presentation. It's scarier. I don't think it's quite an essential must-see, but I think if you are scared of clowns and you like Stephen King and you really enjoy like a strong atmosphere, and I think it's one of the scarier films. I didn't quite like the sequel. I haven't watched the show or anything, but so it's kind of hard for me to pair it with anything, and I think it's even hard for me to recommend the 86 version after you've seen the 2017 version. But nonetheless, I think this belongs up here. I think it probably goes it goes there. I think I don't think it's quite as good as Sinners and some of the other ones here. And I know this might bother some people, but again, I think Night of the Living Dead, I'm not a big zombie fan, and I think this hasn't aged as well, but it's still an essential, but I think it goes behind those as well. Next one up is Jeepers Creepers. This is going to go into that awesome category, and I think this goes pretty high for me. I like it better than pretty much a lot of these films here. The original, I would definitely pair it with a sequel. I know there's some controversy with certain person responsible for Jeepers Creepers, but that aside, it's an excellent horror film. Actually, I could consider this. Maybe not even an awesome second tier. Maybe this one goes in the light work. I'm trying to think. Is it too intense? I think it might be too scary for some people. This is a tough one because this could theoretically go into good, not too scary, but I think it is too scary. And it could go into the easy entry level, but no, I don't. You know what? I'm going to put it here. I think this is... I'm going to put it here, but I'm going to put it lower on the list. So that way, if you've seen some of these other ones, like if you watch the others, if you watched The Sixth Sense, if you watched, The Substance, maybe you watch Child's Play, and then maybe you've skipped across if you want to see better films than some of these. Like if you want to see something better than Tremors or Gremlins or Children of the Corn, then I would recommend, going right to Jeepers Creepers if you want something a little bit more scary. So I'm going to put it there. I'm going to definitely put it above these as well. Yeah, so I'll stick it there. The next one is The Descent. Now, this is going to be controversial, but I view this as an essential. Not only do I view it as an essential, but I think for what it does, I think it's very underrated. If you are claustrophobic, if you are scared of the dark, if you're scared of the idea of being in a cave, if you're scared of a lot of other things, this is going to affect you. But it's really done well. Really, really done well. The set pieces are absolutely amazing. The cast is absolutely amazing. I don't want to spoil too much on it, but The Descent, definitely check that out. I think it's an essential because I think it's so unique and so different. Noticing here, I have Paranormal Activity twice, so I'm just going to stick it there so, we don't have any confusion. Next one up is 10 Cloverfield Lane. This goes into, I'm going to put this into the easy light work. This is actually another really good horror film. And it's a sequel to Cloverfield, which I'm going to have here also easy light work. But I think it's better, and I think it's done differently. This is a lot more suspense, a lot more drama, where Cloverfield is a found footage film. So it's different how both films were presented. There, you can watch one without seeing the other without any issue whatsoever. It's more of a spin-off than anything, but John Goodman is absolutely just amazing in this film. But anyway, moving on. Interview with a Vampire. A lot of people are going to consider this not really a horror film, or not totally a horror film. I'm going to put this in the easy light work. Great story, great images, not really that scary, not really that gory. If you've seen Twilight, if you're seeing the Interview with the Vampire show, if you watched, a lot of these stories with vampires, you realize that a lot of them took influence from Interview with the Vampire. It stars Brad Pitt, Tom Cruise, Antonio Banderas, and Kirsten Dunst, who will never top her performance, I don't think. And she was a child when she did this movie. Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise have the weirdest chemistry, but it's absolutely amazing. It fits the books. I'm a huge Anne Rice fan. I've read through her Vampire Chronicles. I love those books. And I love the adaptation of Interview with the Vampire. So definitely, I would put it on the essential must-see list, but I think more so than that, this is a great movie to watch if you're new to horror films, because it's not really scary. There's maybe 2 or 3 jump scares, and there's a little bit, some blood, but it's more psychological. It's more of a story. And I think a lot of people will get enjoyment out of that. So I'm putting it there. So we're down to 7 more films. And I feel like I've been here for a while, but 7 more films. Let's go over them because, man, I do think that we got some great stuff to talk about here. So the next one up is going to be Saw. Saw is violent. Saw is definitely suspenseful, gory. It's dark. It's scary. I think Saw is one of those films that has a reputation that it doesn't quite deserve. So part of that is all the sequels, and some of the sequels are really good. I like a few of them, actually. I would pair definitely part 2 and 3 with the original. I think everyone is familiar with the antagonist Jigsaw, and we're gonna play a little game. I think everyone is familiar with that. I'm actually gonna stick it. I'm gonna stick it right on the awesome second tier list, and I think again it ranks really high. I think Saw belongs like right after Weapons. Like I think that's where I'm gonna have it. Yeah, I really thought the original one is great. So check that one out. Sinister is also another one where it's not my favorite horror film, but it ranks really high as far as how it scares people. A lot of people are terrified of Sinister. I know they did some stupid study where they measured like people's heart rates watching horror films, and this one came out on top. But that doesn't really mean anything in my mind, and I think the sample size is probably too small to ever be accurate. I don't think there's any way to really quantify what's the scariest horror film. With that said, a lot of people are terrified of this movie. And it's a great movie. It is not an essential must-see, but I think it's essential enough to where if you're looking for a good horror film, something really scary, and something really dark, you can't do, you can't go wrong with watching Sinister. And I'm going to put Sinister, I'm going to put it right behind, I'll put it right in front of Candyman. All right. Next one up, I'm going to skip The Exorcist and The Shining for now, and I'm going to go into, we'll start with The Evil Dead. I think The Evil Dead is an essential. And The Evil Dead is not just an essential, but I think The Evil Dead is a high essential. I think it probably goes right, I think it goes right there. We have several sequels out for Evil Dead now, but you got to understand, if you were a fan of Evil Dead, we waited so long. If you were an Evil Dead fan in the 80s and you wasn't too thrilled with Army of Darkness, which I was not, I know a lot of people love that, but after I saw Evil Dead 1, I saw Evil Dead 2, loved Evil Dead 2, accepted the comedy in Evil Dead 2, but I thought Army of Darkness went too far and I didn't like it. And then we had to wait years and years and years and years for a sequel. That was tough. But Evil Dead is low budget, very campy. If you watch it in 4K, you're going to pick up a lot of flaws that you wouldn't have probably picked up if you were watching it on a small TV back in the 80s or on like an old projector. But I will say that it still holds up in some weird way. Very small budget. It really is the horror film that kind of every horror film, indie horror film, strives to be. It's done tremendous for the director Sam Raimi and of course Bruce Campbell. So Evil Dead is definitely worth a watch. I will warn you, it is scary for an old film, and there's quite a bit of violence, but it's campy as hell, and you should be able to get through it, most of you. Pairing I would give with this would be Evil Dead Part 2 and Evil Dead 2013. I think those are the three that are the best Evil Deads. I know some of the reviews have Evil Dead Rise and Burn higher. That's crazy talk to me. But check out Evil Dead 1, Evil Dead 2, and then 2013. I don't think you'll be disappointed. Those are great films. Next one up is An American Werewolf in London. I'm also putting this in the essential category, and I think just for the practical effects alone, along with The Fly, just a werewolf transformation scene, I think it's worth it. The rest of the film is good. Some parts are a little bit iffy. It ends a little bit weird and abrupt, I think. But just for what it was able to do for horror films and special effects, I don't think you can top it. It's a great film and definitely worth a watch, and definitely an essential must-see. Next one up is Hereditary. I'm going to put Hereditary, you're going to see the theme here, right? Also as a must-watch. I think when you look at all of the horror films in the last 5-6 years, I think Hereditary is the one, the like A24 films is the one that's kind of set the mark. It's the benchmark for these horror films, and I'm actually going to put it pretty high. I'm going to stick it right there. I think Hereditary, the first 95% of the movie, I was considering it like one of the best horror films I had ever watched. And then I felt like some of the ending tapered off just a little bit, but the ending scene and the scary scenes were quite horrifying. But, once they got to the treehouse, it got a little bit weird for me. But otherwise, it's almost a flawless horror film. I know that's controversial for some people. Some people aren't too crazy about it, but just my opinion. I think it's a masterpiece. So I'm definitely going to put it there. And why doesn't it rank higher among some of the other ones is because it's not a trendsetter quite like some of the other ones are. And I am considering that. So, we're talking about essentials here. So, but as far as movies go, it's really great. The next one up is my second favorite horror film of all time, and that is The Shining. And that goes, bam, right at the top. Essential, must see. I think it's important to watch, some of these other films and then watch The Shining. What's going to happen is if you start off with The Shining, it might be hard for you to go back and watch some of the other films and like them the same. The Shining is going to do that for a lot of people. Not everyone, but I think most people who watch The Shining, especially if you watch it, give it like 2 or 3 views, it sticks with you in a way that a lot of other horror films don't. I've done multiple breakdowns already on this channel on The Shining, and it's phenomenal. Jack Nicholson is, really good. Shelley Duvall's really good. It's just an incredible film, and definitely it's one of the few films that I've watched where people 40 something years later are still talking about it and still trying to understand things about it and have all kind of fan theories. And there's even a documentary about it and several ones online. But The Shining is just legendary and an absolute essential must see. Last but not least is The Exorcist. And I don't even know where to begin on this. I'm going to rank it at the number 1. It is my favorite horror film of all time. I've spoken ad nauseum about this film. My family is sick of me talking about it and watching it and doing film studies, and everybody who comes over, it's something that we talk about or watch. I've read the book. I've attended screenings, where Linda Blair was present, to see The Exorcist. I am just a huge fan of this film, and I can't say enough good things about it. Between the acting, the sound design, how it was filmed, and how so many other films, including non-horror films, have picked up things about The Exorcist and have utilized some of the techniques. I just think it's a complete masterpiece, and I might be overhyping it for some people. I know some people have watched it over the years, and they're like, oh, it's not that scary, because a lot of people are told it's the scariest film ever made or it's the greatest horror film ever made. So immediately skeptics come in and they're right away, oh no, it wasn't that scary, and they're not considering the time it came out. They're not considering that we live in a different country, and they're also not considering how many films have copied The Exorcist, and it's lost a lot of its staying power because we've seen a million possession films since The Exorcist. I would recommend, if you've never watched a horror film, never seen a possession film, this should be your first possession film. And then let everything else be judged and have The Exorcist as that measuring stick, because I think it's that good. I would not recommend this as your first watch. Not at all. I think some of the essentials on this list should be essential must-see, should be scattered in between some of the other ones. And there's a lot of movies that I left out on the list that, we could be here for 4 hours talking about this stuff. So as I'm going to edit this, I realized that there was a batch of movies from these thumbnails that just didn't translate into the tier list maker. And then I also forgot a couple. So just to make sure that this list feels more complete, we still got a few more that we got to go through. But I'm going to make this quick, and I want to rearrange a little bit of this list. First things first, I think the first thing I'm going to do is I want to separate this, and I want to add a list above. So I want to add a row above, and I'm going to call this one top 10, because I want to make a distinction. So I'm going to put The Exorcist, The Shining, Rosemary's Baby, Nightmare on Elm Street, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Alien, The Thing, Halloween, some Evil Dead. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And I am going to put Psycho at 10. So this ranks a little bit higher, and I think it makes a little bit more sense. So yeah, I'm doing that. Yeah, okay. So here's some of the films that I missed or didn't come through. So we have Hostel here. Hostel is for crazy people, no doubt about it. And so are its many of its sequels. I do think Hostel 1 is the best one, but if you're going to pair anything with that, I would say Hostel Part 2 works well. I would say that Hostel is definitely for the crazy people, but it's not super realistic in a lot of ways. So sometimes when I watch it now, it feels a little bit campy. I think that was the intention, but the gore is a bit extreme, and it might be too much for some. Old Boy on this list. Good pairing for Old Boy would be the remake, the American remake. I know a lot of people think it's not as good, nowhere near as good, but I know a lot of people don't think it's anywhere near as good. But again, if you prefer watching the American version, it's kind of watered down in some ways, then definitely watch that one. You'll still get mostly the same experience. And I know that's debatable, but I'm just saying this because I know some of the purists will come in here and just, tell me that I'm crazy. But just wanted to put that out there. If you're new to this genre, or you're kind of squeamish and you don't know if you can handle certain films, I would say that, Old Boy kind of belongs on here. And so do some of the other ones scattered here. But I would say these particular films are the ones that are really, really difficult for people who just don't know anything about horror films. I did a duplicate of Paranormal Activity, so let me just stick that there. Okay. Next one up is Poltergeist. I'm going to put Poltergeist as an easy light work. It should and could go in the essential must-see, but I think it's more so an easier entry film, and I'm going to put it right there. It's a classic film. It is an essential, but the essentials, some of them are a little bit for more advanced audiences. I'm also going to put Fright Night on this list as well. I think Fright Night and Young Frankenstein belong on this list. They are complete essentials, but they're easy to get into. And I'm also going to put the classic horror films, the Universal classic horror films on there. So I want to keep this essential, but keep it essential with maybe with a little bit of extra spice, if that makes any sense. Yeah, I think that works. Okay. Moving on, A Quiet Place. I think A Quiet Place is a awesome second tier movie, and I think it could easily go over here, but I'm actually going to put this also on the light work. Really and truly, anyone who watches this film, you don't have to be a horror fanatic to get into the film. I think it's definitely an easier watch. I think a lot of people, even if you're not a horror fanatic, I think a lot of people just coming into it, they get into it and they're not too scared. There's some jump scares and some loud bangs and whatever and false scares, but it's not anything too crazy. It's not anything that the average person can't handle. It's not going to keep you up at night. Next one here is going to be Coraline, and I think Coraline goes... I'm running out of room here. I think Coraline goes on the essential must watch. I think it's absolutely amazing. Really does belong up here. Not quite at the top, but it's right there. But because it's an animated film, and because of the nature of this type of film, I'm going to put it at the easy light work, but I'm going to put it pretty up there. I think it's one of the best movies on this list. It really is a classic. It's grown on me over the years, and thanks to my daughter, because she was a big fan of this. But yeah, Coraline definitely deserves its place. Not quite scary, not quite in the same realm as a lot of these films, but definitely in the world of horror. It should be considered horror. It's an animated feature. It's not gory, but there's some gross things in it. Coraline is great. I think most people coming into this will love it. So the next one on the list is The Devil's Rejects. I do like The Devil's Rejects. It is a hard watch for sure. There's a lot of just terrible and almost unnecessary violence throughout the film, but it is put together really well. I think it's Rob Zombie's by far his best movie. A good pairing with that would be House of a Thousand Corpses, which this is the sequel to that film. You don't have to watch one to understand the other, but it does help. So, if you want to do it the right way, watch House of a Thousand Corpses first, then watch The Devil's Rejects. I leave the third one out, Three from Hell. I didn't care for that one. Anyway, another good pairing with this is an actual separate movie that's actually on the list. And if you enjoy a film like this, then maybe you might want to check out The Last House on the Left. Now, I put in the 2009 version as opposed to the 1972 version. I prefer the newer version. I just prefer it. I know some people would rather see the old film. They're not really great films as far as like storytelling is concerned. It's just another one of those films where it's just a hard watch throughout. But I think the more modern version is a lot more polished. I think the acting is better. I think the structure is better. It doesn't have quite the grittiness of the original one, but it's still pretty brutal. And I feel like the ending is a bit more satisfying in the modern version. So I will go with the modern version. If you want to see what started it all as far as for this franchise is concerned, check out the original one as well. If you really kind of are into these kind of films, the more extreme, and again, there's a lot more of them, but that's probably a list for a separate day. All right. Another one for the crazies, right, is Terrifier 2. So I'm going to put Terrifier 2, actually, I'm going to put it right up here. Terrifier 2 it's a slasher. It's extremely violent. That's really what it's known for. The kills are just crazy. There's really not much of a plot to the first one, but the second one and the third one definitely have a story. I have Terrifier 2 here for that reason. It has more of a story, and I think in a lot of ways it's the best one of the three. There's something about the first one that personally I prefer in a lot of ways, but I think all in all, Terrifier 2 is a better film. But a good pairing is part 1 and part 3. If you like any of them, you're going to like all of them. That's the likelihood. I have a little joke with my daughter, and this kind of goes with some of these films, but in particular with these movies. You watch it and you're like cheering for him to do this crazy shit, and you end up feeling like a bad person. I always feel like a bad person after I watch this. I'm just like, why am I watching this? This shit is crazy. But there are more, and believe it or not, there are way more extreme films out there. But this is one low budget, violent, crazy film that just really captured a lot of attention for some reason, and I'm glad to see it. It's really great to see these lower budget films kind of blow up. It's a game changer, a life changer for a lot of the people that are involved. So I'm always going to root for that. Please also ignore weapons. That was duplicated in here twice. Next one that I have here is The Invitation. So The Invitation I'm going to put as good, not too scary. And I'm going to kind of put that right around here. The Invitation is really good. It's one of those films, and I don't want to spoil anything about it, but it takes a while to get to the scarier parts of the film. But it's not really overall like a scary film. It's definitely more psychological. It's definitely more light tension throughout, and then it just starts to ramp up as the movie goes. It could go into the light work. I'm really not sure where I would put it, but it's close a bit between these two. In fact, you know what? I think just to help out a little bit, I think what I want to do is I'm going to put the good, not too scary right next to the easy light work, because I do feel like all of these could kind of be together. So that's another like little change I'm making to the tier list. Next up, I'm going to put Silence of the Lambs. Now, Silence of the Lambs is, and a lot of people would consider this a top 10. I have it here as an essential. It's a high essential. I'm definitely going to put it there. It is also a good, not too scary, and an easy light work. So Silence of the Lamb can fit in any of these categories, but because it's so good, I'm putting it here. Next one up is Don't Breathe. Don't Breathe is, I'm going to put it as a light work film. I think it's one of those movies where you can kind of throw on with a group of friends. You turn off the lights, you get the popcorn ready, and everyone is just, jumping and laughing, and it's a good time. I think these are some of the best type of horror films to watch in like a group setting. Obsession would be another one like that. Get Out would be another one like that, where you just get a group of people and you sit there and you watch it, and all of you are like, oh my gosh. And that's the kind of movie that is. So if you do have the opportunity to watch that with a group. It's a fun movie. Another one that would fall into that a little bit would be Drag Me to Hell. This is Sam Raimi's follow-up to, Evil Dead movies. It's not an Evil Dead sequel, but it feels like a spiritual successor to the Evil Dead. It's in that horror comedy. Some of the evil forces that you see in the film look really close to Deadites. And yeah, I kind of consider it a spiritual successor to Evil Dead. It is a horror comedy, but it's not for everyone. And that's where I'm going to put it, because I feel like even though it has some really scary, intense scenes, some of the effects are just very obvious, like they weren't done well. Some of the scares are just kind of weird and funny. I know a lot of it was intentional, and the way the movie is presented, but I feel like also the first half of the film is much better than the second half. And then when it gets to the end, it picks up again, but it's definitely got its twists and turns, and it's a really good movie. It's one of my favorites. Don't think because it's here that I don't enjoy the film. I think it's really great. Next one up is The Orphanage. I'm going to put that. This could go under the awesome second tier, but this one I think is also mostly an easy watch. This movie deals with a lot of grief in some ways. So, that might be hard for some people to watch, but as far as like scares go, and as far as like a good story goes, this one really hits. I do think it's one of the easier films to watch. If you're new to horror films and you put on The Orphanage, it's not going to scare you. It's not going to horrify you. So I do think that it belongs on this list. I would put it somewhere around there. I think it fits somewhere around there. Yeah. Okay. So let me look at this list right now and make sure that it's where I want it. I think it is. So just to give a good recap here. So my top 10, and take this with a grain of salt. Like when I'm talking about these movies, and even I put the order in, the order really doesn't matter. But I think these fit nicely. So I'm going to kind of do a recap and explain, because I know just going one by one sounds crazy. So we'll start with the easy light work. So the films that are on this section right here, I think it's approachable for almost anybody, right? So if you're coming into horror films for the first time, any of these movies would work. This is your entry. This is your first grade. This is your kindergarten. So come into it. You can watch it. Some of them are violent. Some of them are scary, but I don't think any of these films here are going to cause anyone to shy away. I think these are the films that are going to keep you coming for more. So if you like a film here and you want to ramp it up, you can move up to the next level, or watch the rest of the films on here. And again, a lot of these films can be in any of these categories, but just for the sake of this video, I think it works well. For the crazy people, yeah, I just this list, I didn't want to make this list too big. I didn't want to have too many films on here. And the main reason why is because there's so many really intense, hard horror films to watch. And some of these are that. The only one here that you can kind of watch and not maybe get that feeling would be Brain Dead, Dead Alive. I think maybe I can drop that one here. The one thing that keeps it here is just the gore, the intense amount of blood and violence. I think that might be too much for some people. But as far as its theme and the way it's presented and the comedy aspects of it, it's a little bit more approachable in that way. The other ones are way heavier and way more visceral. You could even say Terrifier 2, in the Terrifier franchise is more funny than it is scary. But again, I think just some of the tense gore and the way it's presented, I think it fits there. I think it fits right there. Not for everyone. I just feel like these are some of the more controversial films in the sense where some people really, really love them and some people really, really hate them. Again, you can say that for a lot of the films on here, but I do think that for me, a lot of these films are hit or miss. There's some of them here that I'm not even crazy about at all, but I do recognize that that they have their fans. Then the awesome second tier list, pretty easy. These are just really good horror films, and if you really if you wanted to start watching movies from this list, you'd do just fine. Most of you would do fine. They're not quite essentials, but they're not quite essentials, but I do think when you start to watch them, you might. They're not quite essentials, but I do think that for some people, they will fit in that category. The essential must-sees, I'm glad I kind of separated the categories here because I feel like these movies in particular, some people consider them like top tier, the best horror films that they've ever seen. It's very similar to Not For Everyone because some people won't agree with the placement of these films. And in fact, now that I'm looking at it, I don't like Night of the Living Dead up here. I think Night of the Living Dead goes in the, I'm going to put it in the good, not too scary. It is an essential. It really is an essential, but the more and more I look at it, I think it fits better here. Okay, so sorry. I didn't think I was going to make another change, but that's the change. Anyway, back to what I was saying. So these are really great horror films, and I do think that they are pretty much a must-see. I think some people would look at this and probably wonder, why are these films separated into two different categories? I think that the ones up here, just personally for me, they edge out the ones on the bottom a little bit. Okay, and now that I looked at Night of the Living Dead and I'm looking at some of the other ones here, so I have some issues with the way this is laid out as well. So I'm going to make another change. So I'm going to put Pan's Labyrinth up here, and I'm going to put Weapons up here, and I'm going to put Saw. I'm going to eliminate the awesome second tier. But I want to put this in the right order because now that I'm looking at it, so I put The Witch there. I'm going to put Black Phone here. I'm going to put Get Out. I actually think Get Out is a little bit better than the Black Phone. Return of the Living Dead. Obsession. Barbarian. Let Me In. Sinister. Candyman. It Follows. 28 Days Later can go there. Blair Witch Project. Ugly Stepsister. So I'm moving all of these here. I'm just going to keep the order from here on out, as you can see. And I'm going to delete this row. Because I feel like now that I made the top 10, I feel like I don't have to distinguish the difference. I think all of these could be considered essential and must-sees. So I'm going to stop there because I'll be here another hour and it's not what I want to do. But anyway, that is going to be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed this madness that I put together. It really was a lot of fun making it. But it's definitely, it takes, when you start doing it and you start sort of trying to compartmentalize everything, you start to realize, no, that's not right. And I got to move it here. And I'm still going to probably tinker with this in my mind. It's not like perfect, but I think for the purpose of this video and just to kind of break it down a certain way, I think this should help anyone who's trying to recommend horror films and anyone who's trying to get into it for the first time. So let me know what you think. Let me know how you would put this differently, and you know, if you created a tier list. Let me know what movies I missed. Let me know if you disagree with the order. Let me know if something doesn't belong here that you think I kind of shouldn't have included. I'm looking for all opinions, and looking forward to that. And don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. It really goes a long way to helping out the channel. Most people who watch these videos don't subscribe, but it really does make a difference. And it only costs you a couple of seconds, right? To just click like, share, or subscribe, or to leave a comment. So I'd appreciate it if you can do that. But anyway, with all of that said, I will see you next time. Thank you for watching. Peace.